Good. Well, welcome everyone. I call the meeting to order, our Monday, March the 25th, 2024 Business Board meeting. Mr. Bertram, would you call a roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Mulligan is excused this evening. Mrs. Snow?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Here.
Dr. Urso?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibert. Any questions, concerns, any compliments on tonight's agenda? No? If there are none, then Mr. Bertram, we're ready to vote.
Mrs. Snow?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
And Dr. Urso?
Yes. All right, it looks like we have our friendly business manager in DC joining us this evening. And so for the sake of allowing him to return back to his vacation and spring break, let's have a discussion on the bus garage. And so I know we'll vote later on, but now is the time to kind of engage in a debate, whether, and answer any questions if there are outstanding questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna, okay, Mr. Satzing, you're up. So set the stage. Dr. Urso has talked about we're gonna be talking about the Conger contract and then really just to talk about the direction of the bus garage. So you are good to go.
All right, good evening. Thank you. I am sitting here beside the shores of Chesapeake Bay, so I certainly appreciate you letting me zoom into this meeting tonight. You have before you a resolution that is to appoint the next step in the process for the design build, which is to appoint the lowest and most responsive bidder for the project. And we went through a selection process, and that bidder was Conger Construction, which is definitely a familiar group that we've had in Middletown, and one that we've had quite a bit of experience doing a number of projects with. So that resolution is before you tonight, which is the next step. What we need is to have that approved, which will then allow us to go ahead and negotiate a contract with Conger Construction, which we'll be bringing back to you at a future meeting. At that point, it would be inclusive of what the entire project is. If you recall back at the previous board meeting, we went through a number of actually 3 different scenarios or 3 different options. One was to do nothing. Second one was to do a replacement of all of the facilities that are currently at that facility. And then the third option was to go through and do a consolidation and replacement of those. My recommendation to you tonight is that we go forward with a project of doing the entire piece. The next step would be to negotiate that, and we would bring that contract back to you. And at that point, we would establish a guaranteed maximum price. If you recall, the second option, which was just to replace, was approximately $8 million plus or minus. The option to consolidate was estimated to be approximately $10 million plus or minus. And certainly believe that there are a lot of benefits to doing the full-scale project. But what we need to do right now is approve the resolution, which closes out and awards the contract to Conger, and then we sit down to negotiate what the overall price is and bring that back to you at a future meeting. So that's my recommendation, but I do need direction because of the time frame of where we are at and what we need in order to finish out the project, which includes the ESSER grant funding, is really to narrow in on what we would like to do as a board to move forward. So I'm asking for you to approve that resolution, but then also provide a direction as to options 1, 2, or 3 going forward. And again, my recommendation, based upon all the benefits that we talked about at the last meeting, would be to do option 3. So at this point, I'll open it up for questions. I think we went through a lot of information last time, and if there's any questions I can go through to answer, would be happy to do that.
Just a point of clarification, I know on the agenda it's listed as a $10 million amount. In our meeting last week, it was discussed that this initial allotment would be closer to 1.3, 1.5. Is that accurate? And
Yeah, so the contract, as based upon the estimate of the total project, to do the Conger portion would be about that 1.3, 1.5 mark, which is what we're doing at this point, is approving that section of the contract. But I do need direction kind of to determine the scope just because of the time frame. So you are correct, it is that 1.5 million. This would be, as we negotiate that contract, at this point, as they start to develop portions of it, we would start to incur costs that would be involved in that.
And just a point of clarification, the 1.3, the 1 to 1.5 is relatively consistent no matter if we do option B or option 3 or C, the $10 million or $8 million project. Is that correct?
Correct. It is very close. Incrementally, it is very close. It's probably going to be closer to 1.3 if we do the 8 million to the 1.5. It's right in there. There's not a lot of, to do the additional 2 million, there's not a lot of scaling. Pretty much all of that piece, we're going to pay for it because of the mobilization of all the other pieces ahead of time, whether we choose either project.
All right, those were just some clarifying points.
Sure.
The GMP, I know we've run into issues over the last 12 to 18 months with what we have expected for a GMP and what we received as a GMP, and using the community center project as an example, that within meetings and conversations, preliminary discussions identified a GMP that fit within our budget, and then we go out and we talk to the actual people who are going to do the work, and the GMP is dramatically different, to the point to where the timing and it really sidetracked that project for us. And so I guess my trepidation is on the unknowns, especially with the GMP. You don't know that until you go out and you commit money to it. It seems counterintuitive in my mind that you just kind of throw your hat in the ring and you hope that it fits within your budget, but it just doesn't always seem to be the case. And so I guess a long-worded way to get to a question, how confident are you in the GMP will fit within the $10 million or $8 million budget if we do decide to do either of those two projects?
Yeah, I do agree. There is always some level of risk as you move forward with any project. As you continue to move down the path, there is some unexpected things that can come up. We do have some contingency built into those numbers. I feel very confident where we're at. Partially in this is because of the fact that the way that this project is being done, which is design build, is that the contractor that has provided that particular estimated budget is the same one that is going to be moving forward with it. They are going to bid portions of that out, which makes it compliant with the construction models, but I feel very comfortable with that. There are a couple of items that we've already talked about that we know that we need to work with the city on a design variance on one piece that we know is a portion of savings. So I feel very confident that we will get close to those numbers. So.
All right.
My question is that initial 1.3 or 1.5, is our ESSER money going to be applied to that amount?
It would be. It'd be applied proportionately to what we do for the entire project with a heavy lean on the ESSER portion.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Eric. I had a question about just the scope and scale of the project itself, and it's really about whether or not we need to give you clarification for option 2 or 3. Are you asking tonight that we do the addition, or are you just asking tonight that we agree that we want to enter into the project and enter into that design phase so that we can see the actual scope and scale? Because at this point, we haven't seen any architectural renderings, just conceptual ideas of the project itself. So I was just wondering if you could just clarify that for us as we deliberate later.
So I am asking for you to give me direction to go to option 3, and that's really based on timeline, which would essentially commit the $10 million to the project. We can certainly scale back to that, but timing on the overall project really needs them to be looking at what model we believe we're going to get to at this point. So while you're not voting specifically on it, the timeline definitely needs for us to give them direction because we don't have the time to change a great deal as we move forward. So if you're comfortable with the 10 million, and giving me direction to do that would certainly guide the process, which is definitely my recommendation.
Okay.
Based upon the financials we went with at the last meeting.
So assuming that 10 million, we would still have an opportunity, but before to make any kind of final, just seeing the architectural renderings at that point, if we decided that we wanted to scale back, that would still be a board function at that point. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I'm going to bring back to you design features and GMP. The lean at this point will be is that I'm going to I would like to give them direction to do the full-scale project. If we have to scale back on square footage, we can. It is definitely a tight timeline to do that. So, but I will be bringing you full-scale design because they haven't done that yet. You know, we have concept and there's changes, but I will be bringing you full-scale design as well as a guaranteed maximum price at a future meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
I guess to follow up on Todd's points, and to kind of continue on from some of the comments from last meeting, and I know we'll deliberate later as we go through this as the agenda item, and why I asked in terms of the 10 million or 1.5 as listed on the agenda is that I'm in support of utilizing ESSER dollars to correct a lot of the flaws with our current transportation building, the inefficiencies and so forth that are created by having flooding and lack of restrooms, et cetera. Where I have more concern is the full scope $10 million project. And so as it's listed here, I'm in support of the project, but I'm not in support of the $10 million allocation. And grant you, I'm only 20% of the vote or 25% of the vote tonight. And so I'll work at the mercy and be supportive of my colleagues. And I understand I'm only one vote within that, but I'm not in support of the full $10 million project. And for many of the reasons, I won't rehash them. But the preeminent one is the priority around the preschool that was a part of the Sunny Hill Community Center project, understanding that although we're making gains and we're doing things within that domain, to not have the resources, if the resources will be needed, as I hope they will be, for projects that would amplify opportunities for that, creates in me a concern. And then also coupled with that, just not understanding the GMP, to provide some insurance to our taxpayers, our community, and for us as a board, that if that GMP comes back and it's in excess of what we expect it to be, and then we have these renderings and drawings and understanding that we're on a timeline, then what? And it seems like we're putting everything in without, and you correct, I know that there's been due diligence, and I don't want to undermine the thoughtfulness of what's been going on. I appreciate that work, but I'm also trying to learn from prior experiences too. And so that's kind of where I sit on this topic.
No, and I get that. So you don't have to vote. You're voting on us negotiating the contract tonight. I'm going to bring back a GMD. My goal was really just to say, what is the direction? Is the comfort level to go the full-scale design or not? And that's where we need to move. If just based on speed, if we can get there. One thing I can tell you is, we will be working with square footage to get within that $10 million number. So one of the good pieces about the design build process is that we are designing it as we go now, as opposed to designing it and then coming back to it. So it definitely allows us to tweak that as we move forward. So,
And I know this is our property, and I know these things came up, but can you just, for the sake of my mind and appeasement, why is Peterman not a part of this? Why do they not have skin in the game in regards to any of the facilities or the upkeep or maintenance, et cetera, of that facility, seeing that they are the owner of the buses?
so they do own the buses. We own 100% of the facility. The contract that we have says that we will provide the facility, an adequate facility for them to do that. So they provide the management. The piece to this is that we could actually, if Peterman decided or we decided that Peterman's not the right company to go forward, then we could certainly look at a different company moving in to do that, or we could take it back in-house. So really, it's our asset, will always be our asset. I would never give that asset up. I realize that the buses are theirs that they own, but the facility is not. They don't have that. They don't own a facility anywhere that I'm aware of in any of the facilities that they manage.
No, and I don't want them to own our facility either. I think the point being is that for them to properly service their vehicles, they're utilizing our space. And I know there's a good partnership. I haven't read the entire contract to be aware of all the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of that. But just conceptually in my mind, I mean, if it's a bus garage and these are the people who own the buses, then it would make sense that they were in part responsible for the facility too. Because what if just circumstances like one of their buses does damage to our garage? If one of their buses catches fire, so then it's in our facility. And I know there's insurance and these are all what ifs, but I'm trying to understand better, those types of things as we kind of go through this.
So we are both covered in that, and they do have liability insurance to cover those types of situations as well as do we. They are involved in the discussion as far as the use of the facility. One of the things that I can tell you is that they are responsible for their portion of technology and the things that go along with that they put in for their purpose. So they're putting in money as well. In addition to that, we're putting in conduit, but they're putting in other pieces, and they've been part of the discussion as well as part of the design discussion around that. In addition, all of the interior tools and all of the things that they move in is theirs. So they bring that in. So there's several new pieces that they're going to need to get. So they are a part of the process. We're talking about the core of the building in order to do that, and they'll bring their pieces as we go forward, including loose furnishings and technology and all the things that go along with running those offices are theirs, and they're going to be putting that into the equation. So it is a good partnership.
Anybody else have any questions? Holly? Comments, questions before we have Eric go back to vacation?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. So, there's a clear understanding. So he's asking for the Conger approval and then just direction on, that he can share with Conger in the interest of time and also the design process.
Correct.
We good?
For the GMP.
For the GMP. And also, if we direct, if you decide to go in one direction and they come back and we find that's too high, then you can determine that we're going to scale back.
Correct.
We good?
That option is still there, yes.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Go ahead,
I did
Holly.
just think about something. So you said in the contract with Peterman, it's in the contract stating that we have to provide adequate facilities, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what happens if, we do bare minimum and then Peterman comes back and says, hey, we don't find this adequate anymore, and they pull out, but then every new company says this isn't up to par for us either, and now we can't find a company. So I kind of feel like we have our, reservations, but at the same time, at any point, Peterman could pull out.
Correct, and we would need to provide that service regardless, whether that would be another outsourced company or internally, but we would need to do that.
Okay.
We're going to invest a large sum of money, just to kind of put insight on that. And they didn't come to us saying that they needed a new space or new facility. And so this is going to be significantly better than our current space. And
Yep.
so, right?
Which I think is
Oh, yeah.
necessary based upon that. I do know, based upon the other pieces that we talked about, one of the things is hiring drivers. I do feel like this could help in that regard. So just upgrading the facilities and doing, providing some of those things that we don't currently have. So.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, Eric, for joining us on your vacation. Do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime. I'm glad to answer, to be a part of it and answer any questions. So thank you for the opportunity again. I know I've been in front of you a lot with the bus garage over the last
Yeah.
And we surely appreciate your expertise. So thanks so much, Eric. Go enjoy.
Yes.
Tell your wife we appreciate it also. So,
And kids.
yeah, and kids.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I absolutely will. Have a great rest of your meeting, guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
Eric.
Thanks, Eric. We'll let you know.
Bye-bye. Sounds good.
Thank you. All right, moving along to our consent agenda this evening. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
And Mr. Bertram, Ms. Hauser, anything from the consent agenda to highlight?
Yes, so I just thought I'd provide an overview, group out some of these contracts. What you're going to start seeing at this point in time during the year is you're going to start to see us renewing contracts for the next year. And that's exactly what you see tonight on the agenda. See our software renewals. You can see, we call it the COG or the that's our substitute system where we work with Butler County ESC to handle our substitutes. In the classroom, you'll see Test Hound, which is a software platform to help us with testing accommodations. Schoology, once again, that's a software platform for our 6 through 12 students. It's a classroom management software. Newsella, it's part of our reading, math, and social studies. It's a software platform which allows teachers to produce on-grade level text in different subject areas. Screencastify, that's used across the district to make videos. And then MAP, that's our benchmarking assessment that you hear about all the time. Also on the consent agenda tonight, you're going to see a request for Camp Campbell Guard. You're going to see 2 pieces for that. One piece is Central Academy needs approval, first of all, to attend an overnight field trip, which they'll be gone 2 nights. 5th and 6th graders from Central are planning to attend April 29th to May 5th. Cost is approximately $66 per student. Second thing you'll see on the agenda is the contract from Camp Campbell Guard, which outlines all the logistics for the field trip.
If a student was unable to come up with the $66, were there fundraisers or was it directly just $66 for families to be able?
It's funded through ESSER. So ESSER funds the field trip portion of it, and then the principal's fund funds any kind of
So
food portion. There's no charge to a child.
Perfect.
No, no charge.
Perfect.
And then, go ahead, Will. And then we have a contract for student placement outside the district. And then you also see OSBA policy contract on there to help us with updating all of our policies. So quite a few contracts this time.
And under finance, we do have a donation coming from the Atrium Medical Center Foundation for $2,142, and part of the Barricade Bucket Program. So thank you very much to Atrium for their help with that.
Any questions? All right, then, Mr. Bertram, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber,
Yes.
Dr. Urso,
Yes.
and Mrs. Snow.
Yes.
Under curriculum instruction, there is a first read. I noticed some books when I was walking in here this evening. And so I'll allow our superintendent, Ms. Hauser, to discuss the book adoptions.
Okay, so what you see on this evening's agenda is the first read for health curriculum for 7 through 12. Our teachers have been working during professional development hours to review different health curriculums. They have landed on McGraw-Hill. What you see in front of you on the agenda also is you see the breakout of, we've moved away from hardback textbooks. However, we do still see the need to purchase at least one set of those hardback textbooks for the classrooms and your teachers' editions. You also see licenses for students, because the majority of this can be accessed online, and then also teaching resources are part of the contracts. The adoptions are going to be funded through general fund, and then we're still able to use some of our ESSER funding for the actual textbooks, because we'll be able to purchase and have those on hand before that September 2024 deadline. So it's first read tonight. And then also, as you mentioned, there are textbooks sitting out in the hallway, so if you'd like to view those. You can also see, because next board agenda, you're going to see an economics and a psychology textbook adoption also, and everything's out in the hall, if anybody'd like to view them.
Any questions regarding those?
I believe I heard a board member volunteer to read those economic books when I was coming in here, but
Already read
really up to
those.
Mrs. Schreiber.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy.
And I imagine, and we've talked about this prior, is that our teachers, there's committees that go
Yes,
through
yeah.
and they filter through a variety of different texts, and from that, they come to these that are the winners
Correct.
of that process.
And there are also students involved.
Great.
Yeah.
I did give my recommendation on one of the economic books, and I found out it wasn't the teacher, so I'm outvoted.
Oh, yeah? Probably not the first time.
No.
No.
Won't be the last.
No. All right, then moving to business services, there's an approval of a Condor Construction Group design build contractor for the new transportation maintenance construction project. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
All right. And so this is where we get to hash out where we, as a board, and again, to be redundant, we're approving the $1.3 to $1.5 million allotment so we can get Conger figuring out what exactly it will look like and be like for our bus and
Correct.
transportation folk.
So did
Go
Eric,
ahead.
Eric also said that he needs to have some direction as to which option
Correct.
we would favor. And in my thinking, if we're not signing off as a done deal, I would choose to go with the highest option. And then when we get the plans and things back, if we see or feel that that's not the right thing, we're allowed to move back,
You can
right?
scale back, correct.
Then that's my feeling on that.
Okay.
If I could just add on the financial piece of that, I did share with you a comprehensive PI forecast, permanent improvement forecast. And on the second page, you look at the top
got
half
mine.
of the
I've got mine.
page. This is where we put all the data together, and then each page behind it is every one of our buildings and facilities where we outline all the detail and what we believe we're going to need and spend throughout this 10, 11-year report. And when you just look at the bold ending balance estimates for our PI funding, we're in pretty good shape. Currently, this year will be about $3.5 million at the end of the year, give or take. And that number goes as low as just under $2 million and stays pretty firm between $2.5 to $3.5 million through FY30. And then it starts escalating up forward. Eric's working very hard to get all our buildings up to date. As you know, all our elementaries are at the 15 to 18-year mark. So a lot of updates are happening there, a lot of concrete, painting. I don't know if we've missed much, if anything, at this point, as much as we've gone through this. So I feel very strongly that we have captured a lot of our upcoming expenditures. Anything major that come up through storms and so forth, insurance would try to cover those, and it wouldn't be part of the PI. And I also build in, if you went to the transportation page, and I just did this as a placeholder, I build in that 15-year certificate of participation expense at a 4.5% rate, which would be about $186,000 per year for a 15-year period. And so that's built into this as well. And I did tell you that we are still flexible on how we want to ultimately fund this using the Medicaid dollars as we talked about. That's built into this as it currently exists, not to say it can't be changed. I mentioned we could even use general fund dollars if we wanted to go that route. So I ran an estimate how we're doing within the general fund year to date. Timing has a lot to do with the numbers I'm telling you about. The year won't end this way, but it certainly looks favorable at this point. When we look at total revenue year to date, we're up about $1.7 million from what I had forecasted. Total expenditures, we're ahead of the game by $2.5 million. So if all things would be equal, which it won't be, but right now we're at about $4.25 million in the green from where we are on the 5-year forecast. And there's going to be some changes to this as well, being able to spend down some ESSER dollars, supplant, do some things here. So this could even be richer on our behalf by the end of the year. So we are in great shape to be able to afford the $10 million project using a variety of different revenues of resources to get it done. And those decisions will be made as we move through this as well.
Do we own the building that used to be Central Academy? Is that one of our buildings?
The Early Learning Center?
Correct.
Yes.
And is there a reason it's not included within these reports?
Yeah, Head Start does a lot of maintenance for that. And some of those expenditures have been coming out of, I have what's called a district-wide, where it's just labeled as a 101 building. We don't have a separate building number for the Early Learning Center. That's all accounting that I'm talking about now. So we do share some expenses with the ELC or with the ESC, but lots of times if the ESC wants upgrades, they have the money to fund it through their Head Start, so they pay for it. The parking lot that was repaved, that all came out of Head Start money. So there's not a lot that we have to do with that, but there are times where we do split those expenses. Because we don't charge them rent, that's kind of their quid pro quo to maintain the building for us as well.
Kind of gets me back to the bus garage analogy, because it's the
We own
same arrangement. And so it's the same arrangement in theory, and I know there are different funding buckets, and but it's the same principle.
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference there, Chris, is if we gave them, we're going to Peterman now,
Yeah.
if we gave them additional responsibilities, we would see that in the contract.
And I understand that.
So,
It's all deferred
yeah,
costs,
it's kind
but
of a trade-off, yeah.
But my original question is that if we own that building and we understand that, I mean, it's our responsibility in some form, and if they want to make improvements, we don't really control that in the same way. I guess in my mind, if it's one of our properties, just like the football stadium's our property and it's listed in here, the arena's our property, it's listed in here, it would be nice to have that listed in here too, to understand, because if we're partly paying for it, it's still an expenditure for us.
Very good. Yeah, we can do that. That's not hard. Any questions
Yep.
on the financial side as you make your decision?
No, I just wanted to say that I know that in the last couple meetings as we've discussed this, this is it's a major ask
Sure.
and a major investment for the district. I think when we look at our remaining ESSER funds, we know that the clock is ticking. And when we looked back at August of 2023, at that point, we made more or less a commitment to move this project forward. It was debatable in terms of scale and how much it was going to cost, but we knew that there were costs coming when we decided to purchase the Frontier property. So here we are. I think when we look at this project, Anita mentioned that you look at option 3 and do the full consolidation. My direction, really, I am a little concerned about the scope and scale as we reach a $10 million price tag on this facility, because we are dipping into some funding that I know Chris has raised concerns about as well. If we are going to get architectural renderings, looking at option 3, we have a full scope. We know the full scale at that point if there are opportunities to bring this project back. Ideally, I would like to make this project an $8 million project if possible to use the ESSER funds, but I can understand the logic for having the additional, and I understand how it's financed. And I think that you've given a pretty broad overview of why that would be, at least in part, a savings for the district to allocate some other funds towards the additional storage, the 7,500 square feet storage being part of the plan. Also, just in context, I mean, we haven't had, I don't know if the district has ever had an actual bus garage. We look around at different districts. It's certainly not as exciting as doing building additions and other projects. And, you know, I've tried to give this as much thought as possible. You know, I'm hoping that these new facilities can serve the district well. We do have this remaining fund with ESSER funds. We will not get an opportunity to make this type of investment in the district again. So I would agree with Anita that we would look at option 3 and try to narrow this back the best we can, but I would be willing to look at entertaining option 3.
Just one last point. The loan, I think, is for me a sticking point in some ways. Just the uncertainty of just long term. I know you paint an optimistic picture, but I was reading about Mount Healthy, their district, and how things shift dramatically and can rather fast. And so in that light, it worries me. And so I want to be on the record and identify that where I understand the ESSER money is a different pool of money. The Medicaid distribution, I'm a little shaky on because I know it could be used for other things. And it gradually gets to the loan where I'm definitely more apprehensive to go and do that. So, like, but in the spirit of being a part of the team, I understand. And so I'm at the mercy of what my colleagues would like to do and move forward. I'm pretty clear that I would support the $8 million project. I am not in the position of supporting the $10 million project. If the numbers come back and they're way more optimistic, then yay, let's go do it. But my history in being a part of these projects is it's never cheaper. It is never cheaper. It is always more expensive. And so I'm trying to capture my learning curve and understand that prior experiences says that, because I know when we shifted to this project, the initial numbers were way less than this. They were 4, 5, 6 million. And every time it's like it doubles. And there's a point by which there has to be a limit. And unfortunately, you guys found my limit because we're there.
Yeah.
So.
Ms. Snow, you like to add anything?
I mean, I'm not a numbers person. I'm not, like, I just see the reality of the situation. And, excuse me if I get, like, lost or shaky, I'm on new meds. You're messing with me. But I went out there and I saw the condition, and to me, it's not okay. It's not conditions that people should be working in. The fact that they have 80 employees and my kid's bedroom is bigger than their break room. Bothers me. A porta potty being outside, that was a huge no-go for me. So I think, I mean, I understand the numbers. I have the reality of that. I understand the numbers, and I understand where some people would be hesitant on it, but having everything broke down and shown to me by Eric, we even going with the $10 million one, we are not losing money, really. Like, they're even going with a loan, the money that you're saving from, you know, the storage facility, which that was another one that bothered me, because we're using a public storage facility to hold school records. That means someone of the general public has access to school records. So that just is kind of, I'm like, I don't know how I felt about that. And that should all, like, we don't have the money or the time to digitize that right now, but it should be stored safely on Middletown grounds. And, you know, to me, the fact bus drivers and staff do not have the ability to get into that building after hours, they are forced to use a porta potty or rush home and all of these different things. It just did not sit well with me. I mean, you don't have to be a contractor to be able to stand in there and see that essentially every bit of that property flows down into the building. I mean, the gutters don't even extend out away from the building. Like, it's just pulling up next to this building. And we've obviously had a driver shortage for a few years now. You're not going to pull in new drivers making what they're making and dealing with the facilities that they're dealing with. Like, you're just not. 80 employees and they have 1 coffee pot, 1 microwave, 3 bathrooms. No real, break room to speak of. Their training facility is one of the garage bays. So to me, looking at the kids' perspective of this and the parents, I would probably have a much different feeling about Peterman if I knew that all these bus drivers had the best facilities that they could possibly have to come into and then get on that bus and be that child's first start of the day, and knowing that they're having a good start of the day. A bus driver we're all humans. We all have bad days. And there can be just one little improvement that might be able to be like, you know what, I can set this aside and I need to, focus on doing for these kids. They're also the last person that a lot of these kids see. So to me, it's a no-brainer to go with option 3.
Just
really
a
is.
point of clarification on that.
Thank you.
The $8 million was to improve the bus and transportation. $2 million is to bring over maintenance.
Correct.
And utilize the maintenance space for the storage.
Storage, yes.
And so I think there's unanimous support to improve the bus
Transportation.
garage and transportation, have restrooms that they can utilize, have spaces that are ample. I don't think that's the debate. The debate is over the $2 million difference in bringing back maintenance
Consolidation.
and consolidating that space. And that's where, for me, investing those dollars in early childhood education, something that touches kids directly, would be a priority for me. I understand that we can wait and see where those things play out, but I want to be on the record and explain that I value our bus drivers, our transportation staff. I understand that their workspace is important and that they're a thankless operation at times too, that they go unnoticed. But we also recognize when buses don't show up and things don't happen as they should. And so I just want to make sure people are clear that the entire board is in support of improving the transportation. Where I'm not in support is bringing back the maintenance for that $2 million cost, understanding that preschool and early childhood could utilize that fund and those monies in the same kind of way. And to look around our community and understand that many kids from birth all the way till they enter our building could utilize those supports and have a chance to succeed in life. It's not to be cheap. It's to allocate in different ways around the priorities that I think our district to really transform the lives and opportunities of people really do need. So,
Well, I don't disagree with you, at all, Chris. For me, the $2 million difference with getting everything into one place, again, it bothers me that we are storing Middletown records in a public space. Excuse me. And then also, there's no efficiency in how, when Eric had explained, they get deliveries up at maintenance, and someone has to leave the bus garage facility, travel to the high school, take in the delivery, and then travel back. And then if they need something, there's a lot of traveling going back and forth. So for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, in how Eric was explaining things was, even if you did a $2 million loan to reach that $10 million, the interest is going to essentially be paid by the savings of no longer paying for a storage facility, as well as, employee wages where they're more efficient, travel with going back and forth. And so to me, the way I'm looking at it is we're not technically, you're not taking $2 million away from any other particular thing, I guess, is the way I'm seeing it. Because if you did it as a $2 million loan, like, I mean, yes, you are, but it's over a span of time, you know what I mean? As versus like, that money's still gonna be there, like we're not depleting our permanent improvement fund.
Correct.
So then we still do have money to do things with early childhood education in that 15-year time span. Because the interest for the loan is being covered by the savings that we would have.
Yeah.
Again, I don't do numbers well, but that's what I took away from that. Say.
Eric did paint a picture that was very similar.
Okay.
So what I think I hear you saying is we're going to explore the $10 million project. When we get actual numbers, then we will make a decision of where we're going to go from there. I also think, as Dr. Urso said, many of us have sat in a couple different projects, you know, as we've moved through the scope of our ESSER dollars, and we've watched how they've played out. And here we are, and this is the last project that we could possibly do. So that is definitely, you know, I think on everybody's mind. And also the fact that we don't have a final number,
Yeah.
right? The design build is totally different than what we've done in the past, so without having a final number. But we do have direction, and we do have the ability to make some changes if we see a final number that just doesn't sit right.
My last point is the dollar amount, 10 million on this to vote. Is that is that what we're voting on right
No,
now?
we're gonna change, I'm gonna change that to 1.3 to 1.5 million for the Conger contract. I did make a note on that. I should have changed it before the
And
meeting
so-
for our discussion. Yeah.
So do we have to switch it within
No.
the agenda now? Like if, we're not voting on the 10 million?
No.
No.
Just to be clear.
Conger
Okay.
contract.
No, we are not.
Which will be between 1.3, 1.5. If, you know, we're telling them to move the direction towards, let's look at the full scope of the $10 million project, we'll be closer to the 1.5. That's what, the clarity that Eric needs tonight, just so we know that we're going to allocate a few extra $100,000 to see what that project looks like, make sure it comes in with the 10 million, and then move forward from there.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions, comments?
No, I just have one last comment. I just want to say I'm in agreement with Dr. Urso in terms of scope and scale when we think about the costs creeping up. Should this project exceed $10 million, my support would start to weaken,
Sure.
significantly weaken towards this project.
Sure.
It's an
That's
absolute stretch to
understandable.
get to this point now. I do understand, as I've said, I understand, you know, where we're heading with this project, but you know, I don't disagree with my colleague either on some of the things that he's raised. But you know, 10 million, if we can get as close to that, that's great. If these numbers come back and they're far in excess of that, then scope and scale has to be adjusted. And I would definitely be having a difficult time exceeding anything that would be on paper here, so.
I agree with that.
That makes sense. Yeah. Makes total sense.
I just want to make sure that I am clear. So it's to 1.5 to 1. All right, I just want to make sure what I'm voting on, because I will vote no if it's a $10 million contract. I'll vote yes.
That's just the direction.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
want to make
There's
sure.
no
it's
vote on that.
Absolutely clear
Yeah.
in regards to what I'm voting on. And so we're ready to call the roll.
All right, Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber,
Yes.
Dr. Urso,
Yes.
and Mrs. Snow.
Yes.
All righty.
Thank you for your hard work and determination and understanding of this.
All right, moving to T-Mobile amendment for a 2-year agreement. It is a action item. It's recommended by the Business Operations Department to approve the amended T-Mobile 2-year agreement. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
And I'll turn it over to Mr. Bertram, Ms. Hauser, to kind of provide some clarity on this agreement.
You know what? So really, this is the contract for our hotspots. So if you recall, we used to send all of our computers home. When COVID hit, right, we sent all the computers home. We needed quite a few hotspots. to the tune of we had 600. We don't need 600 hotspots anymore. After doing a study, we need approximately 250 hotspots, so we're backing off from 600 to 250.
And the $91,000 is for a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
What was our contract prior when we had 600 hotspots?
Same price per unit. Actually, we started originally with 2,100, never got there, but that's what we thought we needed. We lowered that to 800 and 600. I want to say we were at $400,000.
Okay.
A lot of
Initially.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a general fund?
It will be now because these are used after the ESSER dollars starting next school year.
Okay.
And it's a service, can't do it as a permanent improvement.
Okay.
Unless we find another grant, we're always looking for opportunities to move in and out of grant funding. If something would to occur, and we see a spot where it could afford the 90,000, we'd move it to the grant. But
Okay.
right now, assume general fund.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? All right, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mrs. Snow?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
That takes us to district committee reports. Ms. Hauser, any committees prior or since our last meeting have any committees need to report?
No, I think we took care of that last time, DLT and then the city meeting. So
Okay.
we're good.
You're good to go.
No policy meeting, we're good.
All right, that takes us Board of Education reports. And Ms. Snow, anything to
I don't think I have anything today.
happen today? All right,
No comments tonight.
all right.
I have only one comment, and I've said this before. I want the community to have clarification on this money that we're spending, the ESSER money. And I've heard that there are still comments rolling around about the city of the Middletown schools pulled out of the community foundation project. And that is in error. I don't understand why that's still floating around among city leaders, but it is apparently, because that's what they're saying. So I think Mrs. Hauser she gave a very good explanation of this to the principals
District
and
leadership.
the district leadership team, and so they would be on the forefront because they're the people that parents come in and ask questions of. So I don't know how we get this out to city leaders because I don't understand why people still have that thought in their head. So just something to ponder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess my turn. I'd like to congratulate the winter athletes. They had their awards banquet last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. My son was at a baseball scrimmage, but heard through the grapevine that there are a lot of athletes that were raised up, whether as just outstanding seasons for a multitude of teams and individual athletes. Academically, it's always interesting and exciting to listen to the achievements of all the students that in season were able to achieve great things in the classroom too. Appreciate our athletic department. They put on a good event, and absolutely congratulate all the athletes that were acknowledged. Spring seasons are starting. It was opening day today for baseball. I think softball, it was opening day for them also. I wish all the spring athletes just a healthy and fun season. Hopefully just enjoy the time being young, being able to run around and do fun things. I'd like to congratulate Cleveland Cliffs. I read a newspaper article today that's exciting for our community, a huge investment in Middletown that I know historically how the major employers of a community are doing. It filters into how the schools are doing, how the city is doing, how everybody is doing. And so it's an exciting day for Middletown, understanding that investment is coming to our community. And I've only heard good things. I have family members who work at Cleveland Cliffs, and it just seems like they have some really positive things happening there, so I'd like to congratulate them. And as my colleague had mentioned, I did watch part of the city council meeting from the other day, and I think there is misinformation out there. Our friends on city council, and they are our friends, I think are mistaken in regards to certain things, and just want to be on the record and acknowledge that. And because I think it's been quoted in the newspaper, I think I have multiple times, and I don't even remember that quote, but it's been in there a few different times, and just would like to clear that up, that we did not pull out of a project. The timing and understanding that our requirements through the federal government are different than the people downstairs in this building's requirements. 2 years difference. And the length of time, the amount of money going in, and for us to be strong fiscal stewards is imperative. And so if there's ever a question or concern that our friends on council have, pick up a phone, reach out to us, and invite us into your meeting. Would be happy to sit alongside you and talk with you and understand the concerns that you have and hopefully provide insight to them. Because how we do up here on the 4th floor is impacted by the people on the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and 1st floor. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing our part. And we lean on them to make sure that they do their part and have good information and share that good information in the public space, because people do hear it and they do take it as fact. And if it's not accurate, then it's not doing what it's meant to do. So, Mr. Bertram, Ms. Hauser.
It was exciting today. Ms. Hauser and I did go over to Cleveland Cliffs and got to see the announcement. And I will tell you, the city has been working on that for approximately 3 years. We were abreast of this could be happening. There was a secret code word way back when, because they didn't want anything getting out at that time. And so seeing it come to fruition has taken a lot of work, not just from the city, but from the entire community that's come together to make this happen for Cleveland Cliffs. So very exciting, and I'm very proud of Middletown for seeing this. It'll take about 4 years to get that new, I don't want to call it a blast furnace, because that's what they're removing and bringing
Hydrogen?
new technology
Hydrogen
and very green energy, and they're going to be able to produce better and more steel a lot more efficiently than they are now. So it's very exciting that the 2,500 workers at AK Steel still know that their jobs are going to be there, and, the next 4, 5, 6 years, and then additional jobs will come on. But I don't want to do anything from Debbie because she's going to talk to
Because you already did.
Darn it. But anyway, very proud of the city for that. I did share with you a little postcard that we received from Butler Tech, Elevate Student Impact. It's that time of the year that they have a quasi-all-boards meeting where we actually get to go and see our kids in action along with all the kids at Butler Tech. And I did send out an invite to you, so you can let me know if you're interested in that. Also, let me know if you're interested in the student-led dining experience, and it is quite an experience. Kids do a fantastic job.
They do.
And I do have to have your RSVP for that no later than the 12th of April. So you have to let me know early on that one. And then if you're going to go just to the other event, let me know that as well. You've got time on that. So anyway, that's in the wings, and I know Butler Tech's worked very hard to put on a great showcase of our students.
So we also have a student cooking on April 4th. So if you're interested in that, it's opening up right away. Yep, you have to RSVP down at Butler Tech Cafe Lee. So just to put some numbers behind what we learned today, because they're pretty impressive. So Cleveland Cliffs is going to be receiving $500 million. That's a lot of money. I think they said it was one of the most historical contributions or grants that they've ever seen. Yeah, in history. So that's pretty impressive.
It's 12 of our ESSERs.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So that secures 2,500 jobs. So the people that are working there, they have a secure position for a long time. Also, 170 new positions will be created, and 1,200 positions will be created to actually bring people in to build this new technology at Cliffs. So that's all pretty impressive. Also, Cliffs is one of our Ready Now 100 partners. So when you partner with someone so closely, you're really extra happy and really celebrate what they've been able to accomplish. So it was a big day. It was a big day for Cliffs. It was a big day for Middletown. It was a big day in the United States. So super proud to know Cliffs and all the work that they've been doing. I want to give a shout out also. We received, I don't know if you saw in social media, Peterman donated the MIDI music mobile. It's a big purple bus Even though it says music on the side, anybody can sign up to use the bus, so people will definitely see us coming down the highway now in that big purple bus. So, and then also, everyone's on spring break. Today's the first day. I have to say, we always miss you when you're gone, but enjoy spring break. You've deserved it, and it is definitely a time to sharpen the saw. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, well, thank you for that. Is there, if I'm reading this right, we're ready for adjournment. Is there a motion for?
So moved?
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Mr. Bertram?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Have a good night.